Welcome to episode 108 of the Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast. Real quick announcement before I introduce the guest. Please see the link in the show notes to get registered for the next session of 7-Minute Science, which is held June 24th at 6 p.m. So click the link in the show notes. Today's episode, I sat down with Traci Tauferner, who is a Wisconsin Army National Guard veteran and also an athletic trainer working on the front lines of public safety. She is the Director of Industrial and Tactical Medicine at Advanced Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine, and she's spent quite a few years specializing in the unique needs of law enforcement, paramedics, EMTs, firefighters, SWAT teams, and military personnel. You are really going to enjoy this episode today. Please do me a solid and share the episode with another firefighter or first responder who could use the information. Have a great day. Thank you for joining me on the Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, AZ. I find the research and resources and then provide the fire service with the so what, now what, to ensure the health and well-being of every member of our profession. Together, let's thrive.
Okay, great.
Hey, listeners. I am so excited today to be speaking with my friend, Traci Tauferner. Say hello to the listeners.
Hey, listeners. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have you, Traci, because we've been friends since, a few years ago due to the Public Safety Athletic Trainer Society. And by the way, if you are a practitioner, an athletic trainer, get involved. It is the freaking best society ever. And I'm not even an athletic trainer. So I'm going to put that in the show notes. Also, we are going to talk about the coolest things today because Anna, August, and I already sort of laid the groundwork. But anyway, let's get to know you. First of all, who is Traci?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I listen to your podcast all the time and I knew you were going to ask me this question and I still don't think I have the perfect answer. First off, Anna's answer was phenomenal. I love that girl. She is an incredible human. So grateful to call her my friend as well.
She's the best.
Yeah, she really is the best. So who's Traci Tauferner? I am a community servant. I'm a veteran. I'm an athletic trainer. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and I'm super passionate about serving the public safety professionals out there. Police, fire, corrections, dispatchers, law enforcement, all of you all are amazing, incredible humans. And I wish we could give you everything that you need to be successful. So how's that?
Girl, okay. We've known each other for a number of years. I don't think I knew you were a veteran. Dive deep. Tell me more.
So I am a veteran of the Wisconsin Army National Guard. I had the pleasure of serving my country in a Border Patrol mission and in Iraq in 2009 and 2010. I joined when I was 17, when I was a junior in high school. Yes. Yep. And my journey has been a whirlwind of adventures. Definitely not your typical National Guard experience. However, it has formed me into the human I am today. And I am very grateful that I got to serve my country, locally and internationally.
And dude, you are a super cool human. So I love that. All right. Second question. What sets your soul on fire?
That's a really complicated question. I'm going to go back to who is Traci. Serving whatever that may particularly be, serving the people, serving my professionals, my public safety professionals, serving my colleagues at Advanced Physical Therapy, just serving whatever I can do to help somebody. I will do my best to help. However, sometimes my husband says I am helpful, not helpful. And so learning my boundaries has been important over the years, to not be too helpful of a person. But I just like helping people in whatever that may look like.
Traci, side note, did you grow up in Wisconsin?
I did. I'm a Fond du Lac native.
Okay.
And moved to the Stevens Point area a few years ago.
Okay, I did not. I grew up in South Dakota and I sort of transplanted to Chicago area in 1997. But you and I are the only two people I know that say this word this way. Important.
I don't think I've ever realized that. Usually we're arguing over tomato or bubbler or,
Wait, what's a
up north.
bubbler?
Bubbler's a water fountain.
Oh, stop
We
it.
call it a
Really?
bubbler. Yeah.
Okay, wait. If you're going into the gas station and there's like Coke, Diet Coke, Pepsi, Diet Dew, Mountain Dew, what are those products called?
They're called soda.
Soda. Okay, that's what I say too. So many people in the country say pop,
Or
and
Coke.
many of them also call everything a Coke. What the hell?
I don't know. I don't know about that. And like what flavors your Coke, right? When I was down in Georgia for airborne school, that was something I picked up for the first time. We want a Coke. And I was like, no, can I have a Sprite? And they're like, oh, you want like a lemon lime Coke. And I was like, what?
What? Oh my God. People are so weird. But anyway, I love that we both say importance. Last question to get to know you is how are you, my dear, changing the world?
Oh, that's a great question. So I am changing the world on a lot of different areas. And it's to not go into too much because we talked about this Midwesternness where we kind of get into loopholes and we get into tunnels and stuff. But I would say there's three main areas that I'm trying to change the world. One, I'm trying to be a really great mom. And I want to show people that you can be a great mom and have work-life balance and be a great wife and also have a really successful career, however you measure success. And so work-life balance is something that I really talk to young professionals, old professionals. I preach to my colleagues. I'm grateful I work for a super supportive organization that allows work-life balance to happen in whatever that capacity may look like. And so that's one area I'm trying to change the world is be successful, have work-life balance, and still be able to be there with your family as much as you need to be. The second area I would say I'm trying to change the world is in the public safety side. And that's particularly on injury prevention, looking at how we treat our officers and our firefighters and our dispatchers, and kind of tying into, best practices and getting them access to healthcare right away. There's too many of our public safety folks that are in pain, that are not sleeping, that have, unhealthy habits that I relate kind of back to that prevention opportunity. What can we do to help you? And so trying to get that message out there and share that as much as possible with the world. And then finally, last part, I'm sorry, I've got three,
No, give them all.
is on the mental health side of things, and not necessarily just for public safety, but for the veterans that I serve as well. And that's, being educated enough to understand what mental health is, how to apply mental health first aid, how to do suicide prevention, what type of trauma informed things can I be cognizant of and teach others about. So that way we have this conversation. And it's as common as us asking people, hey, how's your day going? I mean, I would love for that conversation to be, hey, where's your mental health at? Are you at a 0 or are you at a 10 today? Where are you on that ladder? Because mental health affects all of us. It affects injury, as Anna talked about in your last podcast or 2 podcasts ago. And it affects work-life balance. And so the three kind of all go together. But those are the three things I would say. So what do you think?
I think that's amazing. And I'm so excited to dive into each one of those things. But I want to figure out, dive deep into how did 17-year-old National Guard serving Traci metamorphosize into the human that you are today? Give me that path. Tell me more.
Wow. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know that I got a quick answer to that question. You're kind of stumping me here.
Take all the time, girl.
Oh, gosh. I think my journey is not unique. I think all of us have experiences that lead us into the human we are today. In fact, I was reading a book. I'm an audiobook person by Brene Brown. Her story is even incredible.
Oh,
We all work
so
these,
good.
we all walk these paths. And I think most of us um, get into these experiences where we have to make a decision. Are we going to go left to the negative, or are we going to go right to the positive? Right. And I've always chosen the positive path. And even if it means, um, you know, removing people from my life, even if it means moving to a different organization, even if it means not volunteering at that particular cause, because it doesn't in line with my morals and my values that I am as a human. I'm a person of faith as well. And I think that God has a plan for all of us. And if we listen really hard and we trust our gut, it'll lead us in the direction where we can truly be impactful and intentional about what we're trying to do. And so I don't know. I mean, when I was young, I was always active in sports. I was the girl in high school that knew everyone in my high school. I graduated from a class of 585 people, and I knew every single person in some capacity. I wasn't a jock. I wasn't a music person. I wasn't, I didn't fit the normal categories of people. I really kind of floated between groups and kind of found my own path to kind of be on. I joined the men's or the boys, high school boys rugby team when I was in high school from a bet from one of my friends that I wouldn't make it. And that started me on this path of someone thinks I can't do something. So I want to challenge them and show them that I'm capable of doing that. One, capable as a human, but also capable as a female, not to throw the sex bias in there, or as a young person. That was always, well, you're too young for this. Well, let me see if I can do it. What can I achieve when I put my mind to it and put that positivity behind me? And I know you especially can relate to that as being a female firefighter in a field that's predominantly male. You've had to overcome barriers and obstacles to lead in the direction that you are, which is phenomenal. Even now, I mean, you're one of the only, you and maybe a handful of others that are leading the way in fitness and nutrition when it comes to firefighter wellness. I mean, really, Annette, you're doing some phenomenal work as well. So where we're at in my journey, I guess it's just been a lot of, I don't think you can do that, and me proving you wrong. On my basic training when I left when I was 17, I had a lot of guys as friends. I was very tomboyish. You probably wouldn't have guessed that about me.
Never.
But a lot of my guy friends were like, "Oh, we'll see you in a week," when I was leaving for basic training. And I like stuck that in my gut. And when I got to basic, at 17 years old, and I remember day 0 where you get off the cattle carts and we had to like hold these giant, bags, our A bags. We had to hold them in formation for some silly reason why, but certainly for the mental toughness part. I wanted to quit. At week 1, I wanted to quit. At week 2, I wanted to quit. And I didn't, because I was like, if I go home right now, all of them will tell me that they were right. And I don't want them to tell me. I don't want to tell them that I failed. And so being successful has been a huge motivator for me, and trying to drive me in the direction of doing the things, again, that align with my morals and values and my faith. So I could go on for that forever. I don't know how much more
No.
you want to hear or learn.
I want to hear how Traci, who said, "Excuse me, I can do this and I'm not quitting," got to now you are a highly successful athletic trainer for public safety. Like, what was that path?
Oh, goodness. First, thank you for your kind words. It's always one of those reflecting moments when someone says you're really successful. And I'm like, am I though? Like, I still think I can do more, and I know you're one of those people, like, there's still more that I need to do. And you're constantly self-adjusting and raising that bar for yourself. So the public safety sector of it, I got positioned in a place of luck and having the right skills in my toolbox. So as an athletic trainer, we are heavily skilled in 5 domains: injury prevention, rehab, reactive care, and in the strength and conditioning world, also super skilled. And what I was looking for when I graduated college was I wanted a job where I could apply my athletic training knowledge and my strength and conditioning strength and conditioning knowledge. And so I started a job at St. Michael's Hospital here in Stevens Point, running their performance enhancement program, literally building it from the ground up, doing secondary school athletic trainer, so your typical high school or junior high athletic trainer. And I loved the job that I was doing. I didn't even know of the tactical world because it really didn't exist, 14 years ago. And so my boss, Dennis Castor, who is now a colleague of mine at Advanced Physical Therapy, said, "Hey, I sit on the United Way committee with, Chief Traci Kajawa, who's now a great dear friend of mine. And she said that her workers' comp is so high for their city that she was wondering if you could come by and give them some advice on like some stretching posters." And I'm like, okay, great, sure, no problem, right? That's in my area. And so I went on to meet with her. And within minutes, I recognized that this, like a stretching poster, is not going to fix their problem here. And so I dove into understanding what it took to physically be a firefighter. I reached out to, well, first a Google search, and the only people that came up in my Google search was John Hoffman out in California, who is a huge mentor of mine, and Nancy Burke, who Anna mentioned as well, from Fairfax. And that was it. I could find nobody else working with firefighters at the time. And so I reached out to both of them, said, "Hi, I'm Traci. I need a little help." And neither of them hesitated to get on a call with me, continue getting on calls with me, answering all my emails that first year that I was involved in working with the firefighter program. I knew that this approach to helping them with their injuries was not going to be just strength and conditioning, but it was going to be strength and conditioning and athletic training to really manage the injuries that were currently coming in, and then use strength and conditioning to actually prevent injuries from moving forward. Okay. And that's like the bare bone basics of it. And so I went back to my boss and I said, "Here's what I'm proposing: a 6-week program. We test everybody in the beginning. We use a tool like FMS. I love FMS. It's easy. It's got some research behind it, which is great. And I used a conditioning program, and then I did some strength as part of that. So I tested everybody, gave them a program for 6 weeks, and then retested them. Oh, and by the way, Chief Kajawa said we don't have any money in the budget. So,
Yikes.
so I went back to Dennis, and Dennis is like, "Well, I think we can support this as an organization." And so I volunteered my time and got paid by my organization, who volunteered their time to the city, to basically run this 6-week program. At the end of it, almost everyone had improved in some capacity. And Chief Kajawa was asking me how we keep this program around. What else can you do? And so again, in the right place at the right time, I had been prepared for this conversation because of my knowledge in athletic training and strength and conditioning. And then I took a leap of faith by presenting it to St. Michael's, and to Dennis, and to, dig inside my soul and say, I want to do this, and I don't really care if I'm not getting paid for it. I did it. I volunteered, and now look where it's turned into. I've had the opportunity to serve a lot of agencies in Wisconsin and outside of Wisconsin's borders. Happy to say that. And really just trying to change the conversation more than leading the way. I like to say, let's change the conversation. Let's look at it from both perspectives, and then really find out within the organization what it is. Is it more athletic training, or is it more strength and conditioning that needs to be brought in to prevent those workers' comp injuries, which we know are extremely expensive for the municipalities, or the agencies that are involved. And then furthermore, if you look at the downstream, that's taxpayer dollars. So every injury is costing that taxpayer. If we don't want our taxes to go up because our firefighters and our police officers are getting injured, then let's do something about it. And so generating, that routine and getting those strategies in place can be really helpful for an agency and the taxpayers to reduce costs that are associated with these musculoskeletal and just any general injuries. Long answer.
No, girl, so many lessons. Let me think if I can summarize. Number one, if you are an athletic trainer, be ready. Be ready for these challenges. Be ready for these agencies to ask for your help. So that's number one. Number 2, if you're an agency, understand that there is a plethora of wonderful providers out there that can help you. And number 3, we have to do something. We cannot just keep saying, oh, we've got injuries going on, we don't know what to do. We can do something. How was that summary?
That was, wow. You said it in way less words than I did.
No, but your words were way better. I just scribbled notes while you were talking. That is so incredible. So it's interesting that you mentioned the functional movement screen, the FMS, because just today, so it would be April 30th, the episode with Lee Burton from FMS dropped. Isn't he great? He's so great.
He's incredible.
But we just need to understand that there are so many ways that we can help these individuals, whether it's screening, whether it's strength and conditioning, whether it's mental health, whether it's sleep, whether it's all of these interventions, we can help them. So I want to talk, you said, like, I think 3 times now, you mentioned the word guts. And I want to talk so much about the guts and how it relates to this whole landscape of strength and conditioning, how it relates to injury risk mitigation, how it relates to you and I talking to one another right now. The microphone is yours, my friend.
Oh gosh, I don't even know where to start. I really don't.
It's so much.
Yeah, I don't think I know where to start because it's so different for each agency on what they need, and so I think there's a lot of really good toolkits that are out there that might help an organization get started. So like International Chiefs of Police, they have a toolkit for officer safety and wellness, to evaluate where your needs are. And it's really, it's kind of a 2 or 3 prong approach, right, to the guts of a program. Is it an injury issue that you're having? Is it a wellness issue that your people want, right? Or do you have something else like a hiring problem or a retention problem or, I would say hiring or retention problem or just something else that's kind of weird out there. And if you take the time to, look at the needs analysis, utilize the resources to figure out which one, then you can start tackling it. Certainly with City of Stevens Point Fire Department, when I started with them, we didn't do the whole gamut of service lines. In fact, the other day we're working on some rebranding stuff for advanced physical therapy. And we've got 19 services that we essentially offer people, right? That's what's on our menu of services. And you look at all of those, and I would never come in and say, you need all 19. I mean, I would love for you to have all 19, but let's backbone this, right? What is the basics that you need? And it just depends. So if you're an agency that's having an injury issue, you might want to look to some type of reactive care program that involves an athletic trainer or a physical therapist. I'm a little biased towards my ATs, but I have loved my PTs. I co-work with a PT, Zach Mansell, shout out to him, at Advanced Physical Therapy with my City of Wausau police and fire contract. And he's been phenomenal addition to the team because he has an additional skill set that athletic trainers don't have when it comes to rehabbing complex injuries. That's an area that we're not as strong in, right? We can receive additional certifications and trainings like anyone can, but they get some solid work on that in their schooling, in their background. And so on the injury side of it, that might be a strategy that works best for you. I'll find a lot of agencies will come in with a strength and conditioning mindset. And I love applying my CSCS knowledge as much as possible. However, if you think adding a weight room to your agency is going to fix your injury problem, it's not. If anything, it might increase your injury problem because people don't know how to work out. They don't know how to lift properly, right? And they don't know how to program. And I think that's where having a strength and conditioning professional as part of that team can be useful to do all of those things. Again, the bare level, Okay. And then if you're an agency that's on this, like, well, we've got the AT, we got the ATPT, we've got the strength and conditioning person, I'll throw nutrition into that category too, because that's also part of strength and conditioning, being able to eat right and eat well. And that's more your area of expertise. I defer all the nutrition stuff on. I'm like, I'm not a nutritionist, and so, but then if you're on the other one, that last piece of the pie might be something where, new hire wise, we might need to look at a testing program. Maybe it's a retention issue that we need some ergonomics or equipment interventions that may need to be part of that. Maybe it's a mental health thing or a sleep issue that you might be having, more wellness weird stuff I'm going to put over here, because who those professionals are is it's going to depend. And again, I think the guts of it is dependent on the agency and what your needs are.
You said, excuse me, you said one of my favorite words, which is needs analysis. So your organization provides 19 services. But I think where sometimes we get tripped up is, again, we just try to band-aid all of the services without the needs analysis. So from your perspective, can you talk to the agencies or the firefighters out there that might be listening? And I've talked about this like 20 times already, so I want to hear your perspective. What is a needs analysis? What does that even mean?
All right. A needs analysis for me is two-pronged. One, what does the administrative think that they need? Where's your problem? Two, what do your people think is the problem? My husband is in lean manufacturing. He's got his black belt in Lean Six Sigma, those areas. And him and I have tons of conversations related to needs analysis. You have to know organizationally what you need, but you also need to listen to your people. And too many times an agency will pick one or the other. And then when you start programming, you'll realize, oh, my program's completely fallen apart. So to give you an example, I worked with an agency who I approached and I said, hey, I'm working with the fire department. I would love to work with you. And they're like, oh, no, we have somebody. And I was like, oh, okay, that's great. I'm always here if you need me as a resource or whatever it may particularly be. And I do that often to extend the olive branch to say, I'm so grateful you have somebody. That's the first conversation, right? That means you have realized spending the dollars on your officers and your firefighters and your dispatchers and your corrections people, like you understand there's value there. So one, kudos to you that you've done that. Second thing is sometimes those programs don't work out the way that you want them to be, and you're looking for another resource. There's still not a lot of us that are working with the tactical population. And the ones that are have little to no experience. Okay. So what I'm finding from, National Athletic Trainers Association, from NSCA, from the different societies that are out there that you mentioned, most people are in the 1 to 3 years. Well, I've been doing this for 14 years, and I'll tell you, I'm sorry for the first 1 to 3 years of my career for the agencies that I served, because I messed it up. I messed it up good, and I learned a lot, but I would not approach a contract now after learning what I have learned. And I teach my team and my organization that as well. Like, we're not going to come at them with 19 services. We're going to come at them with what they actually need. And so this agency that I extended an olive branch to ended up coming back to me later on. Their efforts had completely failed because the people wanted a strength and conditioning person. And no fault to the strength conditioning person. I truly believe they didn't know what they didn't know. But what they needed was an injury prevention program, which strength conditioning is part of that, but they were missing out on the musculoskeletal part, which is where the athletic training kind of brought into that piece to make that program good for both administration and good for the officers and the firefighters that are being served underneath that program. And so you have to look at it from a two-pronged approach. You have to do a meeting of the minds, meet individually, and then get at the table and meet, almost like a contract negotiation for the union. That's the best way to describe it. What do you want? What do you want? And then what do we need? What's going to drive this agency forward? And then, let's not forget about the dollars that are being spent, how that's affecting the taxpayers. Because next year, when we go to ask for an increase in our budget to pay for these services, we've got to be able to justify it to the taxpayers. And sometimes that conversation goes a little easier if it's a unified front instead of a single prong approach. So that would be my background and my perception, or actually that my thoughts behind a needs analysis.
So good. And I always try to think of it like this. We have like the stakeholders. So we have the administration and we have the village, city, municipality. We have the line firefighters. We have the union. We have the officers. We have the community. Like there's sometimes more stakeholders than just those, but just listening to all of the voices, super helpful. And then tracking the data. So I admittedly am not the best at tracking data. I worked with an agency for 6 years and I did not track data, which is embarrassing and terrible. But tell me about what are your steps to sort of tracking that data and further justifying your program?
Okay. So I'm going to give you a basic overview of some data tracking that we have seen to be successful, or I've seen to be successful. No fault of your own for tracking data. I'm finding more and more, and I think you might have done a talk on this too, the strength and conditioning and the nutrition and world doesn't have that necessarily medical side to them always. And so on the medical side, as an athletic trainer, we are taught in school how to track data. What is important, how to get there. And so data tracking is something that we've done a significant amount of here at Advanced Physical Therapy and just, through other groups that I have worked with. But the bare bones of it, okay, so first off comes down to what do you need? Okay. Are you needing something in, athletic training? Is it strength conditioning? Is it that other category that we talked about? And where are you at? So on the injury side of it, I'll talk to that piece of it. I like to look at the workers' comp data. Where is the injuries occurring? Are they sprains and strains? Are they occurring when we're, trying to detain a subject? Are they occurring from running after a subject? And I'll use police as an example because it's the easiest one. Or are these injuries occurring when they're working out in the weight room, right? And so once we look at the workers' comp data and we can see where those injuries are coming from, then you can start to develop strategies, right? Where you plug and play your resources or programs in to help with that. So workers' comp's the first one I like to look at. I'm also huge on satisfaction. So measuring satisfaction in some way, shape, or form. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a survey, but having your chiefs or having your administrators merely ask people what their experience has been like, okay? Trust me, getting any officer or firefighter to fill out a survey is like pulling teeth, and I'm not the tooth fairy, okay? So let's just ask them, what has your experience has been like? Is Traci treating you good? Is she helpful? Is she not? And oh, by the way, when those people come into my space and they've had a great experience and say, Traci, wow, you really helped me. I'm sleeping for the first time in weeks, or I don't have headaches all the time. Thank you so much. Is there anything I can do to thank you? And I'm like, yeah, you know what you could do? If you wouldn't mind putting that in an email and sending it to chief and the police and fire commission and HR and maybe CCing me on it, that would be phenomenal. I said every year, even a City of Point, been there 14 years, every year we are potentially one of those budget cut items, okay? I like to believe that we're not going to get cut because of all the value that we provided. However, we are still one of those, we're not an essential item ever. And so how can I justify that? I can justify it on the dollars, but I can justify it through the statements that my patients, my officers, my firefighters are giving, on that. And hopefully that warm fuzzy will be created and our program will continue to hold its own as an agency and an organization goes forward. So you just never know where budgets are going to be. So we got to justify it. So those would be my two main ones that I would encourage people that are doing this work: satisfaction, and then where's your workers' comp going?
And I think it's as a provider, sometimes it's awkward to ask for, say, an evaluation, an endorsement, whatever, but just make it easy. Like you said, make it casual. And those things really have an impact. So, you mentioned something that is near and dear to my heart, which is mental health and being super aware of trauma informed practices, training, so on and so forth. So, Anna kind of dove into that a little bit a few episodes ago, but I want to talk to you specifically about how you integrate mental health and trauma informed training into what you do.
Okay, fantastic. Anna is a guru. Same with Becky. Shout out to Becky Swan up there in Canada. She's incredible as well. Those two ladies have truly elevated my knowledge and pushed me to dive deeper into something that I knew was there, but I didn't know what I didn't know. And I say that all the time, people. You don't know what you don't know. And so Anna, Becky, and I had actually met at IACP Officer Safety and Wellness Conference back in 2020, literally getting on a plane as everything is shutting down. We were leaving that conference in Miami. And we had been connected through Nancy Burke, which is incredible, right? My mentor connecting all of us. And along the way, we at the time were like, oh, we're the only three that are really doing this in this capacity or this way. And so we formed this little mentorship friendship group where we get on a monthly call. Sometimes it's quarterly, depending on what's going on. And we talk about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and truly having open, honest conversations about how to move this part of the profession in athletic training and strength conditioning forward. And so in that conversation, Becky comes up and says, I'm going to take this trauma-informed weightlifting class. And I'm like, sure, sounds great. Let's do it. I don't know what it is, but let's do it,
Let's do it.
Let's do it. And so we all signed up. It was supposed to be in Minnesota. And it ended up being virtual because of all the BLM and all the riots and things that were going on. And we're in this trauma-informed weightlifting class. And instantly in the conversation, we're mentioning where we are and what we do. And I would say Anna, Becky, and I probably led some conversations of clients and patients that we had experienced in law enforcement and firefighting that we're trying to find solutions to based on the information that's being presented to us. And we're in the middle of this course and we realize that we're the odd group. We're over here and everybody else is over here on that topic. And so that was the first time that I'm going, oh, we're onto something here. We're talking about something that nobody else is talking about. Why? You know that it's there and it exists. We all know that it's there and exists, but the conversation was still pretty early on back then. As part of that trauma-informed weightlifting class, we had to read like 4 or 5 books and we had to read these case studies and articles. And I mean, there was a lot. We had to do an online course as part of it. And I remember reading these materials and my own traumas from being a veteran were like starting to surface. So that was part 2 of me going, whoa, what is going on here? Like, you don't know what you don't know. And I'm like, I thought I dealt with all that stuff. Like I stuck it in the box and I did my things when I came back from my overseas experience, but yet I'm still dealing with my stuff. Why? And so that got me to look at the people I was treating from a whole different lens. And now I approach every situation one with kindness, which I felt like I did that earlier, but I don't think I was doing it as well as I could have. And I approaching it with like an open mind, keeping trauma up front. Okay. So when someone walks into my space now and they tell me they have a shoulder pain, I don't just ask them about their shoulder. I'm asking them about, their sleep. I'm asking them about, their mental health. I'm asking them about nutritional health. And I'm getting off a little bit on a tangent here, but stay with me. But we're looking at it from this different perspective and this different lens. So many times I have treated people in the past before this knowledge came to me that didn't get better or they didn't progress the way that I thought that they were going to progress. And I now know that it's because they had trauma attached to their body. They had it like in their body. It's like sticking there, like stagnant debris. And we just need to release it. the first time I ever did cupping, this kind of came in with me doing cupping practices. Um, Cupping was one of those, I guess, modalities that really opened my eyes to it. And I don't know, again, whatever you want to believe about, the backstory or, the chi or the energy that we all have in us, that, however you want to take that. I believe that it's real, like it can actually fester itself and it can stay into that space. And so utilizing different modalities, coming at modalities from a different perspective, instead of just saying, well, we're going to do some cupping. I'll say, okay, I'd like to use cupping on you. However, I know in past when using cupping on someone with this situation, you may find some type of response that comes from it. Okay. And when I say response, I've had firefighters on my table, like heavy crying with snot bubbles coming out of their nose, asking me, WTF? And I'm going, it's okay. You're safe. I'm here with you. Is there anything I can do to make you more comfortable? Would you like me to stay with you? Would you like me to walk out of the room? And then coming back and saying, what was that? Well, hey, I think you got something going on that we need to connect you with a counselor. Or a chaplain or someone of your faith, or, whoever that three to five person is in your network. I'm a huge struggle well advocate, right? Who's the 3 to 5 people in your network? We need to connect you with them. And I think you need to do some work on your trauma that you have. And so that's a different approach than I was ever taught in athletic training or in strength and conditioning. So on the strength and conditioning side, and Anna and Becky and I talk about this, and this was one of our presentations we did at IACP this year, is how to use that trauma and how to take it and widen your window from it. And that's the sciencey part that Anna was talking about. But really, we all have a window. How wide our window is, what capacity we can take on in that window is different from one person to another. But you can train it. And as strength and conditioning professionals, we can train this. We just need to increase our knowledge a little bit, right? To be a little more trauma informed. And then taking these exercises, prescribing them, integrating them into warm-ups to help someone take their window that is small and make it bigger so they can take on a higher capacity or even regulate their symptoms a little bit more. It truly breaks my heart when I have an officer that comes into my space and says, I'm like, oh, okay, how are things at home? We dive deep in the conversations, which, that's something that's trust has to be built to be able to do that. And so, how are things at home? Well, I don't know. Like, I just, just kind of whatever. And I'm like, oh, well, like, how are the kids? Like, and you can tell that they're disengaging. Or they'll say, you know what, Traci, when I get home, I'm so tired. I don't want to do anything. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you do with your kiddos? What do you do with your wife? What do you do with your dog? What do you do with your best friend, your parents? I don't know. I just kind of like been avoiding them lately. No, not that they're suicidal. We don't have to jump all the way to that medium, but they're disengaging. Okay, well, what I want you to do is I want you to practice, this routine, of exercises when you get home and see if that brings your energy levels up. See if that brings you back into the window where now you feel like you can actually do something and be part and, present with that family, or again, those obligations that you have outside of work. And I think too often or not on the mental health side, we feel like officers are super stressed out and they're way up here and they're angry, and again, firefighters are the same way, they're way up here, they're angry, they're short tempered, whatever it is you want to call it up on that high, that, a hypervigilant side of things, which comes with their job. But at the same point, they're down in the hypo as well. They've disengaged, they've gone too far low that now, I can't even get them to get enough energy to get up and, fold their clothes or go grocery shopping for the week, or they're disengaging from things with their friends and their family. And so we can teach them how to do this to strengthen their strength and conditioning, to strengthen injury prevention, to help avoid pain, right? Pain is something that truly does crush your soul emotionally, physically, mentally. And so how do we get in front of that together so that that doesn't become an issue that lingers on and on and on for their entire career? So
That was so good. And I want to see if I can summarize it. I'm going to invite you to kick my butt when I do this wrong. But as a recipient of care. I'm a police officer, I'm a firefighter, I'm a dispatcher, I'm an ER nurse. As a recipient of care, when my knee hurts, yes, we're going to try to do all of the things to make the knee feel better. But some of those things, I'm using my finger quotes, some of those things might not have anything to do with my knee.
That's very true. That's great. Gosh, you should do a TED Talk on that. Seriously.
Dude,
and sum it up
this
in
is
15
my
minutes.
goal. I want to do a TED Talk so bad.
You're doing great. My husband's like, if you can't get it out in 15 minutes, then what are you doing? And I'm like, okay, let's just focus here.
Let's just focus. All right. So I know that you, my dear Traci, have all of the things going on today, and I have to be very respectful of your time. So I want to give you, I have two final questions. The first one is, do you have parting words for the listeners? / was there a rabbit hole we should have gone down that we didn't? So that's question one. Go.
Question one. Okay. I think the last part that I want to share on that question is self-care is not selfish.
Oh, so good.
And what I mean by that is work-life balance is essential. Do the things that make you happy, right? As long as they're not bad coping mechanisms, right? That's a whole nother thing. And then do something that gives back to the world and the community that you serve. And if you do all of those things, you're going to be on your way to really doing some remarkable work in the world. And I think together we can accomplish anything as long as we set ourselves in those directions. So self-care is not selfish.
And you, my dear, are doing remarkable work in the world. And final question. I didn't prep you for this one. It's going to be super stressful. Are you ready? I always want to talk about the dogs. Do you have a dog?
I do know that. I do. I have two dogs. I have Chunk, which is his name is Chunk. This is my husband's dog. So Dan had this dog before him and I met. And this dog is just a story to this. This dog was like passed around from different family members, and his sister and her husband were deployed. And Dan kind of got this dog because he bought a home. And they said, well, you have a home now, you need a dog, And so he got this dog Chunk. He's a Beagle Bulldog mix, and he looks like a baby beagle. That's all I'm going to say. Even at 14, he looks like a baby beagle all the time. A couple of years ago, my daughter accidentally slammed the door on Chunk's tail. He had a long tail. Now he's got this short, nubby one, which makes him really look like a baby beagle or a baby bulldog. I'm sorry, I said beagle. I meant bulldog. A baby bulldog all the time. Oh, poor Joanne, she's traumatized, but she's going to be okay. We're working through that. But yeah, so he's a little baby beagle. So that's Chunk. And then like so many during COVID, in 2021, we got Mina, which is our Great Dane lab mix. We unexpectedly lost our giant blue Weimaraner due to congestive heart failure. He went from I'm okay to unfortunately passed away in 2 days. And my children were heartbroken. That was the first time we had to say goodbye to a member of our family. And Roz was just a great dog. I used to look at him and say, if he could talk, he would say, I can count to potato, because that's what he had on his face all the time. Super loyal, just this big blue Weimaraner monster. He was amazing. But we ended up getting Mina. She was our dog. We were looking for a Great Dane lab, and we happened to find one down in Arkansas. And when I say find one, she was a litter of 15 that was an oops litter to a non-breeder. And the lady says, hey, just come on down and get them. So here we are packing up the car with 2 little kids. So we've got 3 kids. Joanne at the time was, let's see, I got to do the math here. So she was 6, Lizzie was 5, and Dexter was 2.5. We left Dexter home with Grandma and Grandpa, and we embarked on this road trip to Arkansas to pick this dog up. And so we picked up Mina, and she has joined our family. She is a wonderful addition. She's a little bit bigger than Chunk. She gives him a run for his money. But she's really great. I can walk her without a leash. She doesn't bark too much, and she can fetch the ball, which is always important because we're active people. We love to be outside, and, being able to get these dogs out. Chunk can't make it farther than a mile. He's short little stubby legs, just don't do it. But Mina can do those walks with me. So those are my fur babies that I have. I appreciate you asking that because they are part of my life, like a family member. And I'm grateful that we have them.
I'm dying. And also, I'm going to need you to text me pictures of all the 2 current dogs and the previous dog because I need these. Oh my God. Okay. Whew. Let's compose ourselves. We are professionals.
You're doing great. You're doing great, as my son always says.
You too can have a podcast. All right. Traci, this has been an incredible conversation. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate your time and your energy and your dedication to what you do. And I'm pretty sure that we can drop the mic. What do you think?
Definitely. Thank you so much for your time. Mic drop.
Mic drop. AZ and Traci are officially out.